The Cleveland Browns versus the Las Vegas Raiders. What could possibly go wrong? Hey guys, Oliver here, aka UK Browns NFL. You might know me from my Twitter account, some of the podcast stuff that I do over at Midnight Sports or Hurdle the Line. But today is my first video on my own channel covering the Cleveland Browns. I've decided to pull the trigger and why not? I do so much other stuff in the NFL, but I thought I'm going to just post on this channel strictly Browns. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Browns versus Raiders, week 4, 9:25 here in the UK or 25 past 4 Eastern time. Both teams currently sat at 1-2. Big game for both teams. I don't know if anyone's seen the injury reports from both teams. They're pretty substantial. So I'm going to kick us off just by reading those off. The Browns will be without Jack Conklin with his hamstring injury. Jordan Hicks has been listed as questionable. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he did return to limited practice on Friday. David Njoku obviously still out with his high ankle sprain. Pierre Strong has been ruled out with his hamstring, and Jedrick Wills has also been ruled out with his knee. So again, going into a game without both of our starting tackles, obviously not the most ideal situation. But for the first time this year, I think the Cleveland Browns have actually been beaten on the injury report. The Raiders pretty big names on here. You look at the biggest one, Max Crosby, who was originally listed as out by Antonio Pierce and has now been listed as doubtful. But I think all signs point towards him not playing, which obviously with the Browns having, backup tackles in there again, is the best case scenario for them. They also will be without Mike Mayer, the tight end, non-injury related, so not sure what the situation is there. I'm assuming personal reasons. And wide receiver Devontae Adams has been ruled out with a hamstring injury. He mysteriously appeared on the injury report on Thursday with a hamstring injury, didn't practice the Friday and has now been ruled out. I'm sure, like most of you are, you're probably assuming there's a trade in the works and that's not actually an injury, but we'll wait and see. As well with the Raiders, they also will be missing linebacker Divine Diablo, linebacker Kanai Muaga, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, is questionable for the game. Offensive tackle Fair Munford is also questionable. And my draft darling, cornerback DeCamerion Richardson, has been ruled out with a hamstring injury. So at least we won't get to continue the trend of guys that I liked in the draft, not getting drafted to the Browns, getting drafted to another team, and then playing really well against the Browns. So at least that can't happen today. But that's the injury reports. As I said, not ideal for the Browns. Still missing those tackles, still missing David Njoku, of course, still waiting for Nick Chubb to come back off the PUP list. We did have some fantastic news this morning that Nick Chubb will return to practice next week, which is just fantastic news for all of us Browns fans, and hopefully signals a return sooner rather than later. But swiftly moving on to this game, as we all know, the Browns versus the Raiders has an odd history. It seems that something weird happens in pretty much every one of these games. They never go straightforward or as we expect. I'm pretty sure the Browns haven't beaten the Raiders since 2014, losing the last 4 against them, obviously most recently in 2021. So would be nice to get back in the win column against the Raiders. I think this is a more important game for the Browns than it is the Raiders. Yes, they're both at 1-2, but if you look at the preseason expectations for both of these teams, I think people are a lot more surprised by the Browns being at 1-2 than the Raiders. They're a team that is meant to compete for a Super Bowl this year, something that the Raiders aren't. So you can make the argument pretty easily that this is a more important game for the Browns. It's in Las Vegas. It's probably going to be hot, but you factor in, just dropped my headphone there. So with this being such an important game for the Browns, they cannot afford to fall to 1-3. Um, to go 2-2, you look at the state of the AFC at the minute. I think even going into this game, the Browns currently have the 7th seed, even with a 1-2 record, which just goes to show the kind of jumbled up AFC that we have at the minute. So going 1-2 to start is not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but luckily it's not the end of the world. And if they can go 2-2 today, combine that with maybe a Pittsburgh loss, maybe a Baltimore loss, with them playing the Bills this weekend, you could be sitting pretty more comfortably on Monday and have a much better feeling about this season. So I'm going to give my 3 keys to victory for the Cleveland Browns today. Something I will do each week for each game. Just 3 things that I think are the most, important things to focus on in order to get the victory in this game. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with the Browns rushing attack. It's been a little bit hit and miss so far to start this season. I think they currently rank 23rd in rushing yards in the NFL through 3 games. I don't think it's a matter of the rushing attack is bad. Yes, we have the O-line injuries. Obviously, Nick Chubb not being there, but Jerome Ford has actually performed quite well outside of the fumble last week. You look at Dante Foreman in the carries that he did get in week 2, was able to do quite a bit with that. And you combine the fact that I think that the Browns can get their running game going. I don't think it's a lost cause. I think it's something that, they can get better at, and something that I think can work for them even without Nick Chubb. You pair that with the Raiders having the 32nd ranked rushing defense in the NFL. That's a recipe for running the ball. I know a lot of fans like to bang on Kevin Stefanski a lot about he needs to run the ball more. I might be joining them this week because yes, if there's any week to run the ball, it's definitely this week. Especially when you factor in the limited performance, shall we say, we've got from the quarterback position, and that's putting it nicely. What way to make it easier for him than to establish the run game? I just think it is the most important, offensive side of the ball thing for the Browns to focus on this week. Get Dante Foreman involved more. Get Jerome Ford involved more. And let's see what this running game can do. Of course, we are missing Wyatt Teller. He was ruled out, someone that I forgot to mention in the injury report, but I'm sure you all know by now. He's been added to the PUP list, so he will miss a minimum of 4 games. I think that is going to be a loss in the run game. Wyatt Teller is probably our best offensive lineman in the run game. He's our best mover, probably our best puller. It will be a loss, but I'm still confident that this Browns run game can be more than serviceable enough going through this season, especially when we get Nick Chubb back. But even without Nick Chubb, and as I said, what team to do this on other than the worst rushing defense in the league? So my number 1 key to victory this week is get the ground game running and stick with it. Number 2, I've got the Browns defense, and don't get me wrong, the Browns defense has not been bad this year by any means. I think they're 12th in total yards given up. They are 14th against the pass and 13th against rushing attacks. So the defense has not been bad by any means. But I think the problem that we've had in the last few games is the lack of focus. I think players are switching off a little bit. They're not as, focused within the scheme. And this has resulted to giving up some big plays. It seems that, every week now we've given up a 50-plus yard play. And I think that's just down to the defense not being, fully locked in and fully focused. You combine that with the fact that we're playing against Gardner Minshew, he threw for 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns in the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground against the Browns last year in a shootout that we were fortunate enough to win against the Colts last year. You look at him against the Ravens last year, he was able to beat them with the Colts. He was able to beat the Ravens last week with the Raiders. He just seems to always play well against AFC North teams. So if this defense can hold Gardner Minshew in check, limit the explosive plays that we've seen them give up in the last few games, sorry, then I think that's going to be a really good recipe to stopping this Raiders offense that is not really great. I mean, I think they're the 22nd ranked offense currently through 3 games, and their passing offense is a lot better than their rushing offense. Their rushing offense, they are ranked last in the NFL, pretty similar to their rushing defense, but they are actually 4th in yards in passing so far this year. So if the defense can lock in, keep Gardner Minshew in check, reduce those big plays, stay more focused within the scheme and within the game, then I think they should be able to limit Gardner Minshew and of course limit this passing attack. You look at Devontae Adams not being there, Michael Mayer not being there. We're probably going to see Brock Bowers get 25 to 30 targets. So Grant Delpit, you're in for a long day. But I'm sure this defense is. Well, I say I'm sure. I know this defense is good enough to shut down an offense like the Raiders. So that will be my second key to victory this week, and my third and final key to victory will be: don't beat yourselves. We've seen so many, sloppy play from the Cleveland Browns so far through the first 3 weeks. Browns currently lead the NFL in drops. We have 16 drops through 3 games, which is unacceptable. It just cannot happen. That's more than 5 drops a game. It can't happen going forward. It needs to be limited. And you also look at the penalties that we've been given up. We currently ranked 3rd in the NFL in total penalties given up. With only the Ravens and the Cowboys ahead of us. We've given up over 200 yards on penalties this year. You look at the game against the Jaguars when we, had a chance to close that game out, and we had 3 back-to-back penalties to pretty much put us out of field goal range and make us have to punt the ball back. So we've got to limit the penalties. We've got to limit the drops. We've got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Our only win this year, we even nearly threw that away against the Jaguars. So you need to lock in, be focused, be disciplined. Let's reduce the penalties. Let's reduce the drops, and let's not try and beat ourselves this week, because it's already hard enough having to beat another NFL team. Let's try and not and help them out by beating ourselves. So my 3 key to victories this week is the rushing attack, the defense, and do not beat yourselves. So I suppose finally I will give my score prediction. I say score prediction. Do I do a score prediction? Yeah, you know what? I'll do a score prediction. We'll go all in. I won't just give a winner. I'll give a score prediction. No, I think the Browns will turn it around this week. Kevin Stefanski, coming off a loss, has a pretty impeccable record. He's shown that he's able to get the team to refocus and commit themselves into going 1-0 every single week, especially coming off a loss. So I think he will have this team playing better than they have been the last 3 weeks, on both offense and defense. You look at the injuries that the Raiders have on defense, that should be more than enough for this offense to score over 20 points for the first time this year. So, and I think the defense as well. You look at no Devontae Adams, no Michael Mayer. They're going to be pretty one-dimensional on offense and probably throwing the ball to Brock Bowers 30 times. So, my score prediction will be 24-10 to the Browns. Obviously going 2-2 on the season, and who knows, maybe with a Steelers loss this week, a Bengals loss, a Ravens loss, after next week get a win, we could be sat there atop of the AFC North. We could have much better vibes going forward into this season. So as always, guys, stay optimistic. The season ain't over until it's over. So enjoy the game, everyone. I know I will be watching here in the UK at 9:25 p.m. So going to be a slightly late one for me, but doesn't matter. I will stay up until the early hours of every evening if it means I get to watch my Cleveland Browns. So hope everyone enjoys the game, no matter where they are, whether you're at the game today, whether you're watching at home in the States, across the pond over here in the UK, or anywhere else in the world. I know we have a massive fan base, global fan base. So enjoy the game, guys. Make sure you follow me at UK Browns NFL across all platforms. That's Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all the good stuff. You can get in touch with me, and as I said, I'll be doing this every week now. I'm going to post kind of my thoughts after the game, give my kind of reviews and stuff like that. Maybe I'll post some stuff if we have news throughout the week. And again, like this episode, I will do a preview every week of each game. So again, as always, enjoy the game, guys, and go Browns.